It's Tuesday, July 23rd, and today I talk with Tommy Ryan about Office 365 consolidations. If you're looking into doing a consolidation after a merger, this podcast will be a great way for you to get started. Enjoy. Hi, and welcome to the Work Together Better podcast. This is your host, Danny Ryan. This is Three Wheels' official podcast about enterprise collaboration, how people, process, and technology combine to help organizations, departments, and teams work together better. Hello, this is Danny Ryan. Today I'm talking with the other Ryan brother, Tommy Ryan. How are you doing, Tommy?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm surviving. It's been a long week. It's only Tuesday. Feels like Thursday or Friday already.
Man, you haven't even got to hump day yet, and
I
you're in the
know.
survival mode.
Yeah, but I got a Dave Matthews concert tonight, so we feel like a pirate.
Oh, good for you. Where's he playing?
He's the one up here in Alpharetta. It was
Nice.
Verizon. They've changed the name to something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So today, let's jump right into it. Today, I wanted to talk with you, get a little bit of the backstory on Office 365 tenant consolidations. And I feel like when we look at this, there's been quite a number of years where that have led up to what we're doing today with these consolidations. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that, share maybe a little bit about what's unique about these projects, and also just sort of like our background, our sort of app dev background, our complex migration background, sort of what have we, from the experience that we've had in past projects, how does that lead us to be in a place where we're really able to help people do these consolidations and do them successfully? I just wanted to have a conversation with you about that.
That sounds good. Good.
So maybe let's start from the beginning a little bit here. I see these consolidations as sort of like being the next step with regards to all of the migration work that we've done, and we've done. Sort of a lot of this stuff initially started with on premise to move to the cloud. Our typical. We've got a SharePoint environment. We need help with moving that SharePoint environment over into SharePoint Online, and helping a lot of clients, especially the folks who have customized it, extended that, would help them with making those migrations. And in particular, I think we're dealing with a pretty complex subject, which is the SharePoint piece of this and moving that over into the cloud.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey for us, and I never envisioned our company, say 10 years ago, getting involved with migrations. And some
Mm-hmm.
of that is due to we like difficult problems to solve. We're problem solvers, and migrations seem to be more of a point and click type activity. And
Mm-hmm.
what we've found over the years is, coming from an app dev background, we can leverage a lot of muscle in making these migrations work well at large scale and in complex environments. And not only the technology piece, but our passion for process. We've come up with a hybrid approach to kind of sprinkle in some of our agile methodology we use on custom development into the
Mm-hmm.
process of discovery and tool enhancements to really fine tune a solid migration. So it's been a good journey for us.
I think the other thing that, recently a lot of our podcasts have been discussing sort of extending beyond the Jive migrations and starting to talk about moving from other platforms like Slack and Salesforce and Workplace by Facebook, and talking about moving from other platforms into Office 365. And I think those, that brings a sort of a unique view of sort of like trying to map over the different content types that you're dealing with, the security piece of everything as well. they're really and a lot of this, I think, part of the reasons why we've been successful with migrating people off of different platforms into Office 365 is because is that, a lot of these things, there's not a tool out there for them, so you need someone to look at, and also just really think through how are they leveraging the other platform, and what content is most important to them, and then how do they map that over and get that over into the appropriate place in Office 365. So how is our background in like migrating people off of different platforms into Office 365? How does that set up us to be successful with these types of projects?
Well, those are complex because you're going from, a different paradigm to a new paradigm when you're going from something like Jive over to SharePoint. So you're trying to transform that content into something very usable over on the other end. Um, so that is kind of given us a great exercise of thinking about what is your digital workplace for you, what makes it unique for your organization, and we were focusing and focusing on the content that maximizes that culture and the value you want to provide in your collaboration platform. So we did that to tweak what should come over, because if we bring it all over, maybe that's not the right thing.
Hmm.
And that translates well into the migrations from on-prem and the tenant consolidations where, okay, you've got a different objective now that you're bringing in multiple tenants into one tenant, or you're going from on-prem to the cloud. What are those objectives? And let's look at your digital workplace and enable the right components of that platform to best support the goals that you have and say the adoption and metrics you want to drive as an organization.
Nice. One of the things I think when we were prepping for this call, I think the other project sort of that stood out for me was the one that we did for a large beverage company out of Atlanta, that we're looking at moving from there. There's within Office 365, there's different types of environments. There's dedicated and there's multi-tenant. Dedicated where is there's a set of companies, probably less than 100, who have dedicated Office 365 environments, and the multi-tenant environment is basically everyone else. And we were helping them out with making, planning out and making the move from a dedicated over to multi-tenant. What are there things from that particular? I know you were involved with that project. Are there anything things that map over to this? Is it more of like the background in planning these things out, or what sort of things map over well to tenant consolidations?
Wow, yeah, a lot of things actually.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate to be on that, effort so early in the life cycle of people doing things in Office 365 at scale. And this is back in 2015, and the things that we were doing, we did a lot of preparation around how do you move things in mass the fastest way possible to minimize interruption. Because when you think about moving things and consolidating into a tenant, or moving from one tenant to another, or on-prem to online, you're you're moving the context of a group of collaborators from one place to another. It's different than moving a mailbox where I'm going to interrupt this one person when I move the mailbox, and then when I'm done, I can go on to the next one. When you're looking at collaboration sites, or Teams or Yammer, you're looking at a group of people, and that group of people changes from site to site. So you have to think about the organizational change management that needs to take place, and make sure that you can do this in the fastest way possible, and
Hmm.
and employ techniques that are kind of common in the migration industry, which is moving that content behind the scenes over, and then doing a delta with a cutover, so you can kind of virtually make it feel like I moved it very quickly, but basically I moved 90% of it, and then at the last minute during the cutover, I moved the deltas that occurred from the time that I migrated.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
one aspect, kind of some of the technical aspects of you got to move quickly, you got to take in consideration how you're impacting people. Um, Another area is around kind of process and communications. We've done a lot of automation of those standard messages that you do at T minus 14, T minus 2, and then the day of the migration, and then post migration to inform people, enable people to be successful in that migration and feel like they're a part of it. There's
Hmm.
a movement that's taking place. There's some business value that you're going to get out of this investment of what you're doing. And we put a lot of nice automation that comes in handy in a lot of our projects. And we find it's a lot of expectation management. You're doing
Yeah.
things like saying, well, what is our migration policy? What are we going to support as an organization when we move from here to here? So we can communicate that up front so people can kind of plan for that, knowing that, okay, this type of customizations are not going to come over. So I need to be educated in what's my best alternative. Now that I'm going from InfoPath, well, there's Flow now, there's Power Apps. How are those things going to replace and make the environment better? But I've got to deal with, well, I've got this in InfoPath. What do I do? And we've helped
Hmm.
kind of addressed a lot of those challenges there.
Hmm. Yeah, longtime listeners of the podcast and conversations with both you and Kirk and in talking with anybody about migration through the years, the communication and expectation setting it just comes over time and time again that you could be extremely successful about moving, you have a perfect migration where everything moved over exactly like you'd like it to. But then if you don't set expectations with your end users and your content owners, and you make them feel insecure about this, I mean, it's to the detriment of the asset that you would call your collaboration system,
That's right.
because they don't trust it, and they need to be able to trust, hey, you've got that you've been working on, you've spent hours and hours, and your teams and departments has been spending hundreds and thousands of hours developing this content,
Yeah.
and you're about to move it, and you want them to feel like they are in control of that content and how important that is. And if you lose that and they start using their own systems, then we get the call later on where they want to migrate off of some product that that they were using for a while because they couldn't trust the internal collaboration system.
Yeah.
We see that time and time again.
Yeah. There's a lot of emotion tied up into that content. If you
Yeah.
think about, you know, working on an Excel document or a Word document that you've put in a good amount of time, 2 hours into creating something, and then you lost it.
Yeah.
That emotion of having to recreate something, it hurts. Although
Hmm.
it's usually you can recreate it in half the time that you initially did it, but you just feel like, oh, I don't want to do this work because I've already done it. And that can be the same emotion if people are going to a new platform. It's like, I don't want to have to recreate this because I can't find it. I don't want
Hmm.
to lose this content where it gets archived because we didn't, move it in time. We didn't have time to get it over.
Hmm.
People really are emotionally tied to the work they put into their information.
Couple of other things I want to talk to you about. One is I know for there's portions of this where we're working with other partners, sort of. Part of it, I want to confirm what I think that we're doing with these consolidations, which is we're managing the overall effort, but then there's portions of this where we're having other partners, like having people help out with like the identity piece of this, or the just the pure moving mailboxes piece of this.
Right.
How does that how's Three Will uniquely set up to successfully, because I know there's other organizations where they may do everything, but they're more generalists who have a lot of who are much larger than we are. What sort of why go with a three will versus working with one of these larger organizations? Besides the fact they're going to be four
Yeah,
times the cost of us,
yeah, yeah,
why work with a three will
sure.
as opposed to some of these other larger players out there?
I don't know if this is the perfect analogy, but if you go back to the stereo days of you could get, an all-in-one, you know, record player, cassette player, tuner, and package that up as one unit that you get quote all the
Record player,
features.
you're showing your age. Tell me.
And then
Go ahead.
eight-track
Sorry.
player with along with it. Um, and yes, you get music out of that. Yes, you have
Mhm,
all the knobs, maybe, most of the knobs that you're looking for,
mhm.
but the fidelity of that, the quality of what you get out of putting together, a very high-end tuner with, purpose-built cassette player that it's an organization that's what they do for a living. They love to
Yeah,
craft and create the best cassette player.
yeah,
I find that the nice sweet spot that we're in as an organization is we don't have that overhead of a very, very large consulting firm, but our focus is in the enterprise where we tune towards how do you do that right in the enterprise for a certain area of the platform. And then what we do is we find partners for like security that are very passionate and honed in on that and work in a high trust environment to be able to bring together, say, an exchange migration partner, a security partner, and then we're piecing that all together with program management and some partners work for even change management for very high end kind of change management requirements. And that allows us to bring together kind of like minded people that want to really craft what they do it very well, and excel in the enterprise.
mhm.
And we're not for everyone, but that's a pretty nice package to get something that is priced in most cases below these providers that have quote everything, but quality wise you can argue there's higher quality there, because you have people that are focused in on their craft.
And are we're packaging these up where they're able to work with just us for them, or are we typically,
Yes,
or is
yeah.
yeah?
I don't know if
So
there's anyone
I
that
could see
wants
from a
to.
client standpoint where it's nice just
Sure.
to work with one company too.
Yeah, and that's our approach is
Yeah.
you're working with three will, but we're not quote hiding the partnerships.
Mhm,
And so from a standpoint of accountability, we're taking on that responsibility
mhm,
in terms of paperwork of contractually doing the work. It's one SOW, one MSA, and then just like we might have contractors, we have partners that can take on roles that we have overall program management around.
and we've seen we've seen with even with some of the largest consulting firms out there, they do that with us, where they're pulling us in for
Sure.
specific expertise for, especially we've seen through the years the Jive migrations. We're getting pulled in as a partner who is a capable partner, and we've seen it be extremely successful. So, even with no matter what the size of the organization of these consulting firms, they're also working with smaller partners every once in a while. How much they're hiding that or not is one thing, but
Yeah, and
it
it's
just you
I'd say it's really sometimes I think better than those situations where I think there's a lot of pain. Like if we're subbing to a large organization, there's just so many you know hands in the cookie jar around
Mhm.
who's doing what, who's responsible for what, and it gets overburdened at times.
Yeah.
Um, but I think we've done a good job at making things simple, being agile and quick to respond, and not taking months to do something that can actually get done in hours or days. And
Mhm.
that's a big benefit of you know and a small set of agile companies that know how to approach and deliver in the enterprise.
Yep. couple of other things. Of course, the lawn folks are approaching me from the outside here. Apologize for folks who hear that. Austin, I'm going to be testing your audio skills here, but the uh, why are people? So let me just talk, and we can wrap it up on this one. Why are people consolidating? What sort of give me the background on like what's the business driver around this, and then just some initial maybe to wrap this up because I think this is going to be a first of a couple of series of podcasts that we do as we further develop this and go into this. But why are people what's is this why are people consolidating? Is it primarily from mergers and acquisitions, or and then what are maybe what's the benefit of doing this? Like, what's the benefits of moving from two tenants into one?
Yeah, I mean, mergers and acquisitions is the key event that occurs that makes this necessary. And
Uh-huh.
then, why people would want to move into one tenant. There's integration that's taking place as companies come together. And so your identity, you're bringing into one identity. And so that kind of maps to, having that one tenant to provide the connection to, where do I get to my email? Where do I get to SharePoint? Get to my team? So there's just a logistical part that, as you combine things, you want to have one connection to one tenant. Um, there's ways to operate without doing that for sure, where people have a hard time, say, getting their AD consolidated and they have, separate tenants and it just works better that way. What becomes a challenge is the experience of collaborating together is you can bring people in from other tenants, but they're second class citizen in the collaboration capabilities, and there's a lot of things that end up being either not available, disabled, or deprecated for that experience as a guest. So that's kind of the challenge that you have. And Microsoft's pretty generous in terms of that guest coming in, that you can not have a license of Office 365 and come in as a guest, and collaborate with other people in the tenant. So it makes sense that there's a deprecation of what that experience is because you're not paying for a license. Um, but I think what becomes frustrating is if you are in the enterprise and you've paid for a full license and you can get all these features when you're in your own native tenant, and then you've got some work to do with this other company that you've merged with, then you go in there and you don't have all the capabilities. So
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest, kind of pain point. And there's a mental aspect of this is we are all one company. So we all go to the same URL when we go to our portal page. It's not different companies. Um, and that's kind of a block and tackle of a fundamental asset to enable you to get work done in your organization is your Office 365 account within a tenant. So not an
So it's
easy
like a
thing to do, but
yeah.
it's kind of important to feel like you're one company.
Yeah, so almost it sounds like it's almost like a business and cultural alignment. It's like
Yeah,
if you're logging into, you work for company A and they got bought by company B and you continue, company B's, it's the second year that after the acquisition, you're still logging into with company A's, tenant. You're like, are
yeah,
we really one company or not?
that's right.
And then
Right.
culturally, just thinking through, yeah, it becomes important that you're all you to use the overused term, use all on the same page or all on the same tenant.
Hmm.
So how important that becomes. So let just to wrap up here, what's the best like for starting these off? Is it a digital workplace briefing? Is it a typically? This looks like a lot of these are coming through more of like a reach out to us for RFPs because they seem to be pretty larger types of engagements. How are we typically engaging with people if they're trying to do this?
It is, trying to establish budget. So we help organizations establish what a budget would be based on some basic metrics within their environment. Um, we have people that will approach it from a digital workplace briefing or workshop so they
Mhm.
can envision what their future state should be within one tenant. And then there's organizations that want us to do kind of an analysis and planning for the migration where they don't want to bring everything over. They do want to reorganize things and they want to, quote, involve their end users in that process. So we have some assets that allow people to come in and decide what they want their site to transform to be. Do they want their collaboration site to now to be a team site? Do they want to archive it? Do they want to move it to a different location within a hub site? And so that kind of planning analysis allows you to understand, well, what should you move, where should it go, and get your organization bought into, here's the plan, we're all ready to do this.
Awesome. Tommy, thank you for taking the time to do this. I know these have been keeping you busy recently.
Yeah.
My role here at Three Will is to communicate to the public about some of the things that we're doing. I'm excited about what we're doing here. I get excited just reflecting a little bit on our background and what makes us unique, and looking how this has brought us to the time in which we're helping out companies with these tenant consolidations. I think a lot of things have led up to this, and it's nice just to carve some time out of the day and reflect on where we've been, where we're going, and I think one of the things where we see us going. And so if you're listening to this and you're looking at doing an Office 365 tenant consolidation, best way to reach out to us is to go to threewill.com. You can click on the contact us up in the upper right hand corner. Fill that out. We'll follow back up with you quickly. If you're interested in the digital workplace briefing, which is a free offering just to get things kicked off with us, on the contact us page, there's a little checkbox on there. You can say you're interested in that. Anything else, Tom, before we wrap up?
I think that covers it.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Work Together Better podcast. We're available on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you're looking for a partner to help you craft a modern digital workplace on the Microsoft Cloud, please come by and see us at threewill.com. That's the number 3 spelled out, WILL.com. Thank you and have a great day.